Well, hello, my name is Jim Rolla. I'm a huge Beatles and Elvis Presley fan and basically classic rock in general. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you could do a thumbs up, that's always most appreciated. Go ahead and smash that bell. That'll give you updates of when new videos arrive. And feel free to leave comments. I always enjoy reading them and I do my best to try to respond in a timely manner. Today I have a real treat for you. I was really pleasantly surprised by this. This is a new authorized book from Paul McCartney. It's called Paul McCartney Wings, the story of a band on the run. It's edited by Ted Widmer. This just came out November 5th of 2025. I know I went on the Walmart.com site and I was trying to actually order this. I noticed that this came out and I wanted to get this. This is a new Wings collection. And they had this book. And I remember YouTubers in the past that I still follow, they brought this up months and months ago that this was going to come up, authorized from Paul. Kind of like Paul McCartney, the lyrics. So you know it's directly from him, it's legit. And I saw it and I was like, all right, well, it's $40. And I thought, well, that's kind of pricey. Well, it turns out that in the inner sleeve, it says that it's $45 for the USA, so I guess I did pretty good. I wanted to show you this too. This is when you take the dust jacket off, because I guess this is the American cover, and I think the UK one has more pictures of the band. I don't know, this to me looks very retro, very 70s, so I'm fine with it. But anyway, check this out, it's pink. And then this lists all of the band members that were in Wings at one time. So I wanted to talk about this. I was really pleasantly surprised when I picked this up. And what I like about it, it tells the story of Wings from the people that were there. Largely Paul McCartney through interviews, but also other band members too through interviews. And that's what I like. Besides that, they even have people that were involved in the production of it, like Jeff Emmerich. George Martin helped out a lot on some of the Wings material. They even have Howie Casey, who did the horns for Paul McCartney and Wings. And I really like it. And you know, it's interesting. It has also Paul McCartney's daughters. It has Stella and Mary on there. Now, I know they were kids. But they were there at the time when they would go on the road and also recorded, you know, the girls were around. You even have Sean Ono Lennon on there. And, you know, you have a really, it tells the story. So it's warts and all, I would say. It's not, and it's good that it's not unauthorized where you just have people, hey, let's tell about the latest, you know, the gossip from this time and how bad Paul was to you guys. No, it doesn't do that at all. But I think it has a truthful account of what happened, told from the people that were there. And that's what I really like. To me, this reminds me very much of Beatles anthology. Like if there was one about Wings, I would say this would be the ultimate thing. So when I looked at it, it starts out in 1969 with Paul and the breakup of the Beatles and how he was going, you know, how he was feeling at that time. Just the depression that he had and how he wanted to continue. He started recording McCartney. It talks about that first solo album a little bit. And then it even goes into Ram, the Paul and Linda solo. And then it goes in great detail about that. It talks about how Wings, the name came about, why they decided to form the band, what the point of it was, early tours. And it has a nice breakdown of each album. They talk about the recording of the album, how that was. They talk about individual songs in some cases, which I thought was really good. And they have some nice, really revealing photos that I don't think I've seen in some cases at all, and they might be exclusive just to this, which I thought was really nice too. Look at that, nice pictures. So when I got this book, I immediately thought, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to look at the end and how they broke up, because this goes through Tug of War. Tug of War was recorded in 1981. They started at early, well, it was 1980, 81, and then they did, you know, a little bit more after that. But it was originally a Wings project. So I wanted to find out what exactly happened. I've heard a lot of different things as to, you know, why they broke up. So I'm going to read something here, just give you an idea. So what happened is Paul talks about the last time that, you know, Wings, their last concert was the concert for Campuchia, and that was December 1979. And this is what he talks about it. Now, he had new band members, and he talks about that too. So this is Paul. It says, "That was the worst night of my playing life ever. There was no bottom coming off the bass. The monitors were incredibly bad, and I got breaking out in a sweat. In no way I could control it. I just knew this was bad." And we said, well, you know, what else should we do? We go around the world 10 more times, you know? Maybe we've had enough of all this touring. Let's face it. You know, I had been doing it since I was like 18 or something. The enthusiasm had peaked. And Paul said, how much longer should I be, you know, who says that I have to be in a band at age 40? He was slowly approaching 40. And he says, I had been playing, you know, in bands since I was 15. In 1980, they decided to do some dates in Japan, and this was a first for them, and they were really excited about it. But again, Paul was apprehensive. He had newer group, 2 new band members, and he was concerned about it. So here's what he says on that. Now here's what happened. Wings actually, this is where they go to Tokyo, they go to Japan. It was a big deal. They had a series of dates. He gets busted in customs. They found a large bag of marijuana, and he ends up being in jail for 9 days. And he actually wrote a book called Jailbird there, just of his thoughts on it, I think while he was in jail. Well, anyway, he says that that was in a safe. You know, I remember reading in interviews in the 80s. Well, in this book, it revealed that he actually gave copies of it to his kids. So here's what he says here. So that's that. So it says, Paul, I think the Japanese episode, as we can call it, was the end of Wings. It was very strange, that period for me, because I didn't want to go to Japan with this band, and I felt very under-rehearsed. And I don't like that feeling. I will normally rehearse so I feel we've got a great show. Then I'm happy to go. But we were booked and we were going to rehearse in Tokyo, and I thought, oh, a bit last minute. So I was panicking about it all, and suddenly I get busted, and I don't know, it just feels like a very strange thing. It's almost like I got myself busted to get out of it. Let's take a look at another page here. I thought that was pretty interesting. So this is about Back to the Egg. The last Wings album was Back to the Egg, and it was released in 1979. He had 2 new members. What was going on with this band is there completely was new members flowing in and flowing out that were the lead guitarist and the drummer. So by this point they had Lawrence Juber on guitar lead, and they had Steve Howley on drums. Paul McCartney. I think we had been very lucky up until that point with the Wings lineups. They had gelled, but the final lineup, I thought it was okay, but maybe it wasn't as good as some of the others. But you can't guarantee what a lineup is going to sound like, or what it's going to feel like, or whether the personalities of the people involved are going to gel. But it's the same old theory. Let's have a go. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I think something else that maybe that's not thought about is this. When you get a new lineup, it's like having a new band again. To the press and public, we were still Wings, the band who had quite a bit of success with things like Band on the Run and Wings Over the World Tour. But when you're actually in the band, to lose 2 members and then bring 2 more in who were maybe a bit young and less experienced than the rest of us, it's like the snakes and ladders game. When you land on the snake, you slide back, maybe not all the way to the start again, but you lose a lot of ground and momentum. To the world, Back to the Egg was the latest album from the people who put out My Love and Listen to What the Man Said and Silly Love Songs. To us, though, it felt like it was the band's first album. let's go to page 196. This talks about Paul and when Wings was a trio, you had two of the members, you had the guitarist and the drummer quit, and they just, because there were other reasons for it, but they didn't want to go, the final straw was they didn't want to go to Africa to record a new album, and it ended up being the most successful album from Paul and Wings Band on the Run. So this is a quote from Jeff Emmerich, the engineer who engineered the album, about the conditions there for the studio. Jeff Emmerich: the EMI studio in Lagos was really small without any sort of acoustic screens, which we had to have made. There was no drum booth. The microphone supply was a cardboard box just full of old mics, and there were maybe half the amplifiers missing in the 8-track tape machine. And there was a door at the back of the studio. I'll always remember this. It was a soundproof door, and you opened this door, and at the back of the studio was the pressing plant where they pressed all the records. And there was like 50 or 60 people stamping out records at the back of the studio. That's one thing that is stuck in my mind. Can you imagine that? And then let's look at happier times. This is when Wings decided to do their world tour in 75, 76. They had a new lineup. They had Jimmy McCullough on guitar, and they had Joe English on drums. This is Paul. Having recorded Venus and Mars, that was their latest album, we decided to do a Wings world tour, the biggest we'd done. Wings' 3 core members, me, Linda, and Denny Lane, had been getting better and better. And now with Jimmy and Joe, it really seemed to be gelling. Jimmy was a cool guitar player. Henry had been too, but Jimmy was a bit special, and Joe was the final ingredient. We were ready to hit the road. We did a lot of rehearsing for the tour, maybe more than anything else we had done, but we found our groove thanks in part to Joe English's drumming. He was very good, and he was also a good singer too. And he says, when we were planning the tour, we decided that most of the people in the audience would want to hear the songs exactly like the records. So Jimmy had to work out how the records went. I'd help him from time to time, but he mostly got it on his own. He was a good player. So I just can't recommend this enough. Maybe a stocking stuffer, you know, for Christmas coming up. Maybe just buy it yourself. But it's a great book, and this is definitely, it goes along up there with one of the best books I've ever read on Paul McCartney. And I would compare it to the Beatles anthology as something, a companion piece, something that you should have in your library. Thanks for watching my video. You have a great day. Take care. Bye.